Don't be an anonymous investor. Join the stock market social media platform public.com. Invest any amount of money and share with friends and new friends. Discover new opportunities, such as new companies and potential business partners, and useful tools for beginners, and share your experience with friends on public.com. Link in the video description gets you $5 for being a Grid Network viewer. Use the referral code GRIDnet for your free $5 to invest. Start investing and networking on public.com.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Grid Live Encore. I'm Ben Schneider, as always, joined by Joshua Burch, Brandon Craftsman, and Casey Campbell. And before we get into the bulk of our show tonight, I do want to speak with Josh here. It looks like Josh might actually be frozen, so we'll...
I thought he was in deep concentration. That's my bad.
Here. Yeah, we were going to have Josh give a recap of Moto2 and Moto3, since we don't usually get to talk about that on this program here, but it looks like we might have lost Josh. So we'll try to reach out to him here and see if he can get reconnected, because he's definitely frozen here and the camera's just gone away. And now he's disappeared. So it looks like he's going to try to re-enter. Casey, in the meantime, before we get to that, I understand you had some Indy Lights news that you wanted to share with us. Of course, their season is wrapped up, but while we wait for Josh to get back on the stream here, tell us what you've picked up from Indy Lights.
Well, yeah, of course, there are rides that have been confirmed so far for the 2023 season. We'll start with Andretti Autosport. Hunter McElroy will be back as well. And this, of course, Arnie Shriven from who does PR for IndyCar kind of listed the confirmed rides so far that are back. Also with Andretti Autosport, I mentioned Hunter McElroy. Louis Foster, actually, we just talked to today on my channel. He will be back with Andretti Autosport. HMD, they confirmed last week their first driver, Josh Green, who of course was in Indy Pro 2000 with the Turn 3 Motorsport team. He'll join HMD. Of course, that's the team that Linus Lundqvist won with this year. Also previously mentioned, the Force Indy team, Ernie Francis Jr. will be back in the 99. And for Cape Motorsport, of course, they're going to be jumping from USF 2000 to Indy Lights, and Jagger Jones will be in that ride. Of course, Jagger Jones is the grandson of Parnelli Jones, of course, the 1963 winner of the Indy 500. And his dad, of course, is PJ Jones. So there you go. There's my Indy Lights kind of news thing there.
Well, certainly a lot of great things happening to great people in Indy Lights. And I saw Josh pop back in and then pop out once again, so it looks like the connection might be a little unstable. I see he's back in now, so we'll see if we can go to him here. Hey, Josh, how are you doing?
Hi, sorry about that. Got literally no idea what happened. I heard the music come in, I started sitting here smiling, and all of a sudden, all I could see was black squares, so no idea what happened there. But hopefully you can all see and hear me quite clearly now.
Well, this is what happens when we do these shows live sometimes. Sometimes we encounter technical difficulties, and it takes us a second to get everything back together. But Josh, we went to Casey for his Indy Lights updates first, just to fill you in on how far we made it in the script here. But I want to give you an opportunity, because I know when we started the Encore show, we brought you on to discuss Formula 2, Formula 3, since that's something that I've been able to pick up a little bit this season. Of course, I wasn't super familiar with it. It's been great to have you on for that. But I must admit, I know very little about MotoGP even to begin with. I know absolutely nothing about Moto2 and Moto3. So since the F2 and F3 seasons are largely wrapped up now, we only have some stock car racing to cover tonight. I wanted to give you the opportunity. I think you called this segment Birch's Bible when we did it with the Touring Car Championship. So why don't you go ahead and give us a little bit of a rundown of what happened in Moto2 and Moto3 this weekend?
Well, we'll start off with what happened in Moto3 as well, and we'll go back right to Saturday with qualifying as well, because it was some of the most dangerous things we've seen all season long as well, across anything as well. Two members of the Husqvarna Max team as well were waiting in the pit lane with one of the Red Bull riders just in front of them as well. Now, the Red Bull rider had been going in front of them in every single stage of qualifying and nicking their toe for the Husqvarna bikes as well and compromising their lap times. And in the dying moments, they had enough of it. So basically what happened was the Husqvarna mechanics went, and as soon as the rider was about to leave the pit lane to get the toe, they stopped him. They physically put their hands on the rider and on the bike and stopped him from leaving. That is a big no-no. It's effectively cheating. It's absolutely horrific as well. Both members of the Husqvarna team as well have been fined €2,000 as well, and they've been disqualified from taking part as members of the team from the Australian Grand Prix and the Malaysia Grand Prix. Now, the reason that they're not been banned from the next two races in Japan and Thailand is because of COVID and because of the visas. So the MotoGP have actually said on an announcement they put out, it would not be possible to replace the team members in question for the next two races due to immigration and travel restrictions for the upcoming rounds as well. So they will miss the Australian Grand Prix and the Malaysia Grand Prix. Now, Moto3's race itself as well, it kicked off the morning's running as well, and it was a race of two different halves as well. Not in terms of the fact that the first half was boring, the second half wasn't. No, in the main fact that the top two got split up as well. Guevara, Sasaki, and Holgado, 1, 2, 3. They finished 1, 2, 3 as well. They separated from the rest of the group as well. The battles literally from 4 all the way down to around about 13 as well, where you see Sergio Garcia's name, were all fighting for the top 4 positions as well. Now, Sergio Garcia was running quite high up, and he was, before coming into this race in Aragon, the championship leader. But he failed to finish last time out, which means that Izan Guevara took the lead, and Izan Guevara, with victory here in Aragon, has put in 33 points clear in the championship. So he is now well clear of his teammate on the gas fellow bike as well, of Sergio Garcia. John McPhee returned as well and did some surprisingly great racing as well. That's a Brit, John McPhee, as well. He was in 10th position as well. But mainly the surprise as well from the top as well, coming into it as well, was Deniz Oncu, the Turkish rider, being in 4th position as well. John McPhee back in 10th position. Sasaki, who was usually quite high up in the order as well, fell down the order into 12th position as well. Dennis Foggia had his worst result of the season in 14th. Foggia's usually always in the top 5, mainly winning races as well. He's dropped back in the last couple of races as well. Just as something to note as well, Ana Carrizo as well, the Spanish rider, making her return to the championship, as well as Maria Herrera further down as well, both on their own bikes as well, that they come in as well, and sort of getting women back into Moto3 and Moto World Championship categories as well. Maria Herrera has been in the Moto3 Championship, but now that's over. It's been put back through as well. Now, with Moto3, we all said wasn't exactly a typical Moto3 race, because usually Moto3 is pack racing all together for the lead. We had a lot of chumped up grumps as well. Moto2 is arguably the more boring race of the day as well, because the regulations haven't been changed in a couple of years now as well, and it usually means we get quite basic running. It basically like a boring Formula 1 race, but Moto2 delivered here as well in their race as well. Pietro Acosta, he broke his ankle, his femur in the ankle as well, one of the most painful injuries you can have as a rider as well, and this is his rookie season in Moto2. He's been back, this is his 3rd race back since breaking it, and he took the victory. It was a fantastic race win as well. He was 2 seconds clear to Aaron Canet as well. So across all the Moto classes, we had photo finishes at the line as well. Augusto Fernandez in 3rd position, with Iagora in 4th as well. That's pretty much standard stuff as well. To give you back home as well in America, Joe Roberts as well finished 9th position as well, 26 seconds down, but he was chasing with Vietti, Boyaba and Lorenzo Dalla Porta. They were in a little train battle together as well. Further back down as well, we had a big crash at the start. Alonso Lopez and Marcel Schotter failing to finish the race as well. big accidents for them down at turns 3 and 4 as well. We honestly thought the race would get red flagged because of the way they went down in the middle of the pack, identical to Quartararo and Nakagami as well. So we sort of knew what to look for. But it was a Spanish 1-2-3 with Acosta, Canet, and Fernandez here at Aragon on Spanish soil. So it has opened up the championship a little bit more as well as for the Moto2 guys as well, because Somcat Chantra is now dropping further back in the standings. But it's all eyes really to see who can take the Moto3 World Championship. That's the most open of the lot, even though there's 33 points difference between them as well. Sam Lowe is, by the way, for everyone interested, for the Moto2 paddock as well, not racing this weekend as well due to injury still. He should be back for the Japanese Grand Prix. And Jake Dixon was a surprise as well. Started third, was running second, then dropped back to fourth as well. But he crashed heavily in the warm-up session, damaged the bike, so his transponder wasn't working as well. And during the race, every single sector 2 point, the transponder wasn't registering. He was dropping down the order. Every single time we thought he'd crashed out of the race because we weren't seeing him on the TV pictures. He got to the last lap of the race as well. And reminder, Jake Dixon is a crasher. He's a very fast racer, but he crashes all the time. So we thought, well done, Jack. Well done, Jake. Well done to Jake Dixon. He's going to finish with some great points. No. He goes down at turn 12 with a mistake that was quite easy as well, and he has been criticised for it. So Dixon crashing out as well. British Shout not really going that well as well. We're sort of hanging our heads in shame. But at least Carl Crutchlow and John McPhee brought the Brits home some points. And for those of you over in America as well, Joe Roberts as well, looking to get from strength to strength again as well. He's already a top tip next year as well, with the development on his bike as well for 2023 to be a Moto2 champion as well.
Well, Josh, we really appreciate that update. Great to have another opportunity to add a series to our portfolio in terms of what we're giving a little bit of coverage to here. I do want to ask you before I let you go, because I know you've had a long day. What is your one shining moment for this motorsports weekend here?
Well, to choose it differently as well from what we did yesterday with MotoGP, I think I'd have to go for Pedro Acosta as well, and he's come back as well for Moto2, breaking the most hurtful bone in the body for a motorcycle rider as well, which is the ankle that you change the gears with as well alongside you. It usually is a career ender, and for a rookie to come back from that in Moto2 category, he's the Moto3 champion from last year as well, so he's a very fast rider, and to take victory 3 races back, he's still in pain, he's still limping around, and to do that was absolutely fantastic as well. But for the whole weekend, definitely as well, the fantastic stuff we saw in MotoGP was the overall highlight. It was a good weekend in Aragon.
It certainly was. Well, Josh, thanks again. We'll let you go off and get some rest, and we'll bring Brandon and Casey back in for the rest of the show, but we appreciate your coverage as always, and I'm sure we will see you if we don't interact on social media before next week's shows. We'll see you then.
Yeah, I'll be back for Japan for Moto2 and Moto3 and everything else. And cheers to you all. Have a great rest of the show as well. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Hey, Josh, I'll throw my Mountain Dew.
Mountain Dew.
Mountain Dew.
Ben bringing out the orange Mountain Dew.
Yes, sir.
Livewire is one of my favorites. It's not as good as Baja Blast, though. It looks like it's finally disappeared. It's summer's over now. But
hey, wait, by the way, look at the three of us, and then look at Brandon. So we all went with the black, and then Brandon went with the white there.
Oh, I don't know. We're just doing terrible with colors past couple of weeks. We tried to set up a purple day, and then here I come with no purple on. So
I know,
that week was scrapped. We should try it again.
This is navy technically. I know the lighting's not studio like great here.
I have to set a reminder for these things, I suppose.
Let's figure out a color for next week and see what we can do.
Sounds good.
You don't have any purple.
All right, Josh. See you soon.
Right. I'll see you soon, everyone. Bye-bye.
See you, Josh.
And I'll catch up on a couple of chat comments here quickly as well. Adam Lemery saying, every time I see Adrian Fernandez, I think of the former IndyCar driver from Mexico. I think I saw Sergio Garcia there as well. So a couple of names that you recognize from other sports or other areas. But yeah, interesting to try to get to learn some of these new names here from these series that Josh is able to help us cover. Amber saying hello to Casey. It's been a little while since we've seen her in the chat room. So hello again, Amber. And yeah, Casey's been on our show for a few weeks now on the Encore show, helping us cover ARCA in particular. So we're lucky to have him. Now, before we get into the ARCA coverage, in case I know we had a big combo race at Bristol that we'll get to in just a moment, but I want to have another open segment here because there was some big news that pertains to all of NASCAR this week, including 2 of the 3 national series that we cover here on the Encore show. The schedules were released for all of the top 3 series for 2023, and I'll give everybody a bit of a brief rundown here. This is the first half of the schedule. Obviously, some of the highlights include North Wilkesboro returning to the Truck Series and the Cup Series coming back as well for the All-Star race. Of course, that was recently announced last week, and Bristol Dirt back from Truck Series as well. That will be their only dirt race of the year. Knoxville, as you can see here in the second half of the schedule, is absent, and we'll take you through some of the other highlights as well. You can see the Chicago Street Race there, which had also previously been announced. The Xfinity Series will be joining them as well there. But Brandon, I guess we'll go to you first here. What are some of the highlights that you picked up on? And it doesn't just have to be Xfinity and trucks. You can make your opinions known on the Cup Series schedule as well. What stands out to you for 2023?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things really. I really love the Truck Series going back to Milwaukee. That really stood out to me from the get-go. Really seeing the revival of that place, getting it up to code, and now it's not laying dormant anymore. We're going to have a Craftsman Truck Series race, and we're going to have a Craftsman Truck Series race at Milwaukee. That's pretty crazy. Also, I like that Road America still gets something on the NASCAR National Series calendar. They get Xfinity. I forgot exactly what day, but also returning to Portland. And, of course, definitely not biased that Nashville gets all 3 of their dates still another year. Also looking the Chicago Street Race, that's going to be Xfinity going to be there too, so it'll be a little a test to see what Sunday will bring. And there's something I saw that Ben Kennedy said. He said something to the effect of, "When we go back to the Indy Oval," and that brought a lot of promise and hope that that is still in their minds. They know this is not a permanent fix, the Indy Road Course, and so. As much as I don't like seeing Indy RC on there, I know there's change coming. Also, North Wilkesboro All-Star Race, tremendous. Will it be upsetting? Will it end up being something? Is this just a bunch of hype because of nostalgia? Is it just going to be a tire problem? We don't know what Goodyear's going to bring out there. There's still a lot of concerns to think about too, but I'm overall very impressed with what NASCAR has done here with the top 3 national series for next year.
Well, of course, there's a lot of work to be done at North Wilkesboro, and I think a lot of work to be done for the Gen 7 car on short track.
Yes.
So, it's obviously great to have it on the schedule, and we hope for the best. But I think there are some concerns as to how well it's going to race, and we'll just have to see. I mean, obviously, we haven't been on this track in over a quarter of a century here, so it's going to be a bit of a wild card for everybody. Casey, I understand you have some updates on the ARCA schedule as well. Of course, some dates have been announced because they're companion dates with the top 3 national touring series for NASCAR, but also just want to get your reactions to some of the updates to the schedule that we've seen so far.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the schedule. I kind of really with some things I really enjoy this schedule. I mean, North Wilkesboro coming back, that's exciting. Milwaukee for the trucks are kind of back as well, as I'm kind of looking here at the schedule here. When you look at, I know that from people that I've talked to, that ARCA and trucks are going to be together a lot, and I'll get to the ARCA portion in a minute. But also excited that IRP stays on the schedule. I'm excited about Mid-Ohio being on the Truck Series schedule as well. Of course, I was actually down there at Mid-Ohio for that truck race. Absolutely had a blast. That was my favorite weekend that I've covered at the track in person. I wanted to also mention something on the Xfinity schedule that Brandon did not mention, is that, of course, and I know our good friend Brock Beard is going to really, really like this one, is that Sonoma is on the Xfinity Series schedule.
Oh, wow.
On the truck schedule.
That's nice.
So Portland and Sonoma are back-to-back. I know that another West Coast swing. I'm sure. I think we might see our good friend, the guy in the upper left-hand corner. You might have to make that trip again.
Well, hey, no promises, but as soon as I saw that Portland and Sonoma are back-to-back again, Ethan texted me right away and said, "If you're up for this again, we'll make it happen." So
yeah,
can't lock anything in just yet, but we would love to do that trip again with Grid and NASCAR back-to-back.
Yeah, of course. Also, of course, the trucks are not going back to Sonoma. Of course, that's now the Xfinity Series, and of course, only one dirt race on the schedule as well. Of course, that is, of course, that's Bristol Dirt. Also, 8 road courses on the Xfinity schedule.
Yeah,
I actually
want to think of that. I think that might be. And look, I'm saying this. I mean, I think people know. Obviously, I try to remain objective now. I did grow up an AJ Allmendinger fan, and AJ's obviously a beast on the road courses. I'm sure he's loving this schedule. It's coming to the Xfinity Series next year. But just speaking, I think I've even heard him say this on the record before. It's like, just, from a fan's perspective or where the schedule should be, he was saying we probably have enough road courses at this point. Well, now we've doubled down on that. We're up to 8 for the Xfinity Series, almost a quarter of the schedule. What do you guys think of that?
It's a little much. I have to say, AJ Allmendinger is already a lock into the round of 8 next year because of how many road courses are on the schedule. You can almost say it. I think they got a lot of positive perception from adding road courses to the schedule, and so they thought, well, more of a good thing can't be bad. But yeah, it's probably reaching a maximum limit where you want to keep it even out. I mean, this is an oval series. Let's not kid ourselves. Stock car racing is an oval series. But the road courses have been great, but you got to keep it in a very good mix.
Yeah, I counted on the road course schedule. There's 6 for the Cup Series, 8 for the Xfinity Series, counting the Chicago Street Course. Only 2 for the Truck Series.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, of course, the trucks didn't go to a road course for many years. They were an all-oval series for a while, and then they brought Canadian Tire Motorsports Park back. And, excuse me, I brought some road courses back to the schedule in recent years as well. We'll catch up on some comments from the chat room here. Amber saying we went to Martinsville and not a fan of it, but for next year, Bristol or Richmond might be a better one. I think we're referring to the issues with the Gen 7, like we briefly mentioned when talking about North Wilkesboro. Of course, that's something that they have to sort out. But I wouldn't completely close the door on Martinsville yet, Amber. I think it's a very popular track that usually puts on a good show. Of course, this year's spring race was an exception to that. Not a very good product, but I think if NASCAR can iron out some of these short track issues with the Gen 7 or the next gen car, you might see a better show if you go back again. Amber also has a question for you, Casey. What's the best track for ARCA if you're going to attend a race there?
I would say probably one of the short tracks, like I would say Salem or Toledo. Those 2 tracks. Berlin was a fan. Got to go to Berlin for the first time this year as well. If any of you want to go see some local short track racing out on the west side of the state of Michigan, of course, that is that track is operated by Jeff Striegel, of course, of MRN Radio. Of course, he's from that area, and Berlin Raceway has just been having so much improvements over the last year. Of course, they won the Advanced Auto Parts Advance My Track Challenge in 2021, and just made some massive improvements there. So I'd say those 3.
Is there any coincidence that you brought up Salem and Toledo when they're the last 2 races we have this season? So you're just trying to hype them up.
Hey, so basically, watch the rest of the ARCA calendar.
Yes, yeah, watch the rest of the ARCA calendar. Salem and Toledo, of course. Salem is the track that ARCA has raced on the most, and then Toledo, of course, is the home of ARCA. And when they announced that championship race last year, I was really jumping up and down. I'm really excited. I know that they've got some big events going on there. I've heard there's going to be a massive the car count there is going to be solid, as I mentioned a couple entries on last week's show. Oh, and I do want to mention, going back to your original question about there were some ARCA dates that were confirmed. The races at Daytona, Phoenix, Talladega, IRP, Michigan, Kansas twice, and Milwaukee and Watkins Glen were all confirmed on the ARCA schedule. Also, the ARCA East race at Dover was confirmed, and the ARCA West Championship. Of course, the ARCA West Championship race will once again be at Phoenix next year as part of NASCAR's championship weekend. So it's those races are confirmed. I noticed many people noticed. I think Mark Christopher from Front Stretch, he was actually the one that tweeted all this stuff. He noticed that Mid-Ohio and Pocono were not confirmed. I do expect ARCA to go back to those tracks. And in regards to the full ARCA schedule, don't expect any big changes. I wouldn't be surprised if all 20 tracks from this year returned on the ARCA schedule next year. However, with the East and West schedules, I've heard a little bit of stuff there, but that's obviously another discussion for another day.
Our own Joe Samiego saying hopefully there's less rain when we go back to Portland next year. It's hard for there to be more rain, so I think we hopefully will get some better weather next season. And Amber adding on the road course discussion, you'd rather see a road course than Texas and Atlanta. I don't disagree, but at the same time, when you're up to these numbers that we're seeing with 8 road courses, again, I think there was a time where people loved mile and a half so much that they really pushed the mile and a half, since that made up the most races on the schedule. And you've got races like Texas and Atlanta and tracks that were getting 2 dates. And I think that was a bit overkill. And now this generation of fans seem to prefer the short tracks and road courses. Well, now it seems like, especially on the road course side of things, they've really doubled down on that. And now maybe fans are starting to recognize we might be seeing too many road courses. So we'll see how things go next season. I'm sure selfishly, if you're an AJ Allmendinger fan or a colleague team member, you're not going to be complaining too much, because he's had the road courses pretty much on lockdown this year. He's won 3 of them, and it was played no small role in allowing him to win the regular season championship. But I think, from a neutral fan's perspective, I think, we're starting to push how many really should be on the schedule here. I was joking with some of my friends with all this, Colton Herta super license IndyCar debate, that the Xfinity Series champion next year should just be awarded the full 40 super license points, because whoever wins it is going to have to be a master on the road and street courses. But
I just ordered a super license shirt that the Bus Bros actually got on there. I might have to wear it now. I might have to wear it on one of these shows when I get it in there. And by the way, who said AJ Allmendinger was going back to Xfinity? That hasn't been confirmed yet.
Well, I don't know. I don't see him getting back to the grind of 36 Cup races. We'll see. I'm sure Colleague would love to have him. He had another great run at Bristol last night in the Cup race as well. So I'm sure if he's up for it, they'd love to put him in that 16 car. But who knows what's going to happen? That is true. That is still.
That's all I'm going to say. Stay tuned.
Hey, at this rate, the winner of the Snowball Derby gets 20 super license points. That takes some skill, man.
It does. Stay tuned.
Yeah. Well, let's not get into the whole super license debate here.
Let's do that. We need a question for that.
Yeah, I do think that there are a lot of highlights to this schedule, though. I think that there are still certainly some things that could be improved. And I have to say, in regards to Sonoma in particular, and Casey, I have to say, I watched your interview with Taylor Kitchen discussing some of the schedule changes. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think she said Sonoma, she's not particularly a fan of it. She was saying that might be one of the road courses that she would throw away. Is that right?
I'll have to go back and watch it, but I think something like that. I know that might. We have to. I'm not sure. I'll have to go back and watch it. So I'm not.
Well, I just want to say, from an ARCA West perspective, I think the Sonoma race, which again, to your point, Casey, about Phoenix being confirmed, it was interesting that Portland and Sonoma were not confirmed for West as part of that update, given the Xfinity dates were confirmed.
Well, Charlotte and Bristol weren't even confirmed either. Obviously. True. As I said before, the main ARCA schedules will be coming out in the next few weeks. From people that I've talked to, and obviously these are the people at ARCA that I've talked to, obviously ARCA PR Director Charlie Krall, don't expect any big changes with the ARCA schedule.
Sure.
Obviously, there's still some things to work out in East and West. I've heard some different things. I know there have been some different reports out there. I saw that Mark Crystal from Front Stretch reported that Flat Rock could be added to the ARCA East schedule. So, of course, that's actually a track that's owned by ARCA. So that we'll have to obviously see that. The East and West schedules are far away from being there. The main ARCA schedule's got to get out first, and then the East and West schedules. But obviously now that all 3 Nationals tours are out, the Cup Series, the Xfinity Series, and the Truck Series, we'll have to see on that. They might also be waiting for the IndyCar Series schedule to be released, because I know that might coordinate with them a little bit too. So who knows?
Yeah. Well, just to circle back to Sonoma real quick, I think, for the West Series, historically speaking, Sonoma has kind of been their Daytona 500. It's their biggest race, the one where they're a companion with the Cup Series. It gets the most attention. You usually see the healthiest car counts there. And a lot of times Cup regulars would enter the race in order to gain more road course experience. And what we saw this year was that I think this was even the first time since, I think you have to go back to the early 90s, or the late 90s rather, where there were no Cup drivers in the West race at Sonoma. And the reason for that, I believe, was because the Truck Series was at Sonoma as well. So you did see some Cup regulars enter the truck race. I have a feeling, my fear is that, and Josh, I'm sure will speak to this as well as Brock Beard. from lastcar.info, who goes to Sonoma every year. But the Cup regulars will probably enter the Xfinity race next year instead of the ARCA West race. Now, I've always been on record as saying I'm not a fan of the whole bushwhacking deal in principle. And I do think when it comes up to 4 or 5 or 6 Cup drivers entering this West Series race, that's probably still a little bit overkill. But I will absolutely take 1 or 2 Cup drivers running that West race. And, I would certainly prefer that over the 5 or 6 that we'll see in the Xfinity Series, because I think back to Will Rogers as well and the run that he had with Kevin Harvick in 2017. That kind of put him on the map. Casey, you want to go in and
I would expect a lot of Xfinity guys to be in that ARCA West race.
You would expect Xfinity drivers to be in the West race. That's
yes,
what you're saying?
Absolutely.
That's not a bad point. I think,
and maybe
correctly, there were some truck drivers that were in the West race as well.
Some of the Truck Series drivers will be in the that race as well. I know that when the trucks went to Mid Ohio for the first time, that was a lot of the truck guys were in that. Colby Howard, Blaine Perkins, John Hunter Nemechek was in that race. Lots of guys, because obviously that was the first time a lot of those drivers have seen Mid Ohio. So, yeah. So I would expect some Xfinity guys to be in the ARCA West race for sure.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's a very good point as well. Let's catch up on the chat here. Adam saying bring the Xfinity Series back to Milwaukee. Well, we're getting there. I think
trucks first.
The trucks, yeah. We'll see how this truck race goes, and of course, ARCA being back there in recent years.
There's even talks about IndyCar going back there.
Yeah, well, we certainly know IndyCar needs more ovals. So
after the Indy 500, preferably.
Amber saying super license crap is annoying, makes you want to turn off F1. I think a lot of fans are sharing that sentiment. It's been very frustrating, especially if you're an American fan wanting to see an American driver, and Colton Herta isn't being granted a super license. I think that is very frustrating. It seems like the system, still keeps some. It's not doing what it was intended to do. It's keeping drivers that are, good enough to get an opportunity, good enough to be approached by teams out, whereas certain drivers that maybe are not as qualified to be in Formula One. And I hate to throw. I sort of hate to throw Mazepin under the bus. I'm sorry. I'm going to try to, remain as objective as I can here. But I think, generally speaking, public opinion, people probably won't be too offended if I say that about him. But the fact that he got a super license, but Colton Herta did not, I think just tells you everything you need to know about that system. But again, subject for another day. Let's not go too far down that path here.
Well, before we do that, Ben, I have to commend you on your article on Last Brock. If you haven't read it yet, go give it a read on Last Brock.
Yes.
Last car.
Whoops.
Last car. There's Last Bro.
There is Last Bro. Wow. That is true.
Yeah,
that is true. But yes, if you want more of my thoughts on the super license situation, go check out my recent piece for Brock. I might even I'll probably put it in the comments, guys. Help me remember.
There you go.
The show. I'll pin it there.
Let's get Ben's thoughts on the XL wedge on the Wheel of Fortune next.
Well, I'll come on your podcast this week, Casey, and we'll talk about that then. One more comment from Amber here. Next year, Brandon Jones will win the ARCA and Xfinity race for Josh to celebrate over. Well, we'll see if Brandon Jones is doing any Xfinity races next year as part of his deal with his new team, Junior Motorsports, and we'll see if anything comes of that. But I'm sure if it does, Josh will be absolutely thrilled, as he's been all year. All right, well, let's move on to the race recaps here. And Casey, I'll get your thoughts on our 2022 ARCA Menards Series East champion, Sammy Smith. I believe we have a graphic for him. There we go. And I mentioned when I was on your preview show this week, Casey, as well, that it was going to be a battle between the two Toyotas on the front row, Sammy Smith and Brandon Jones, the basically teammates, if you will. Of course, Jones driving for that JGR 81 car, Sammy Smith driving the KBM 18. Now, by winning the race, Smith successfully defended his ARCA Menards Series East championship. He also picked up the Sioux Chief Showdown Championship for ARCA's short tracks and road courses. Smith won 5 of the 7 ARCA East races this season and has just 2 finishes in his entire ARCA career that are outside the top 5. I do want to note, I believe he had 13 top 5s in ARCA this year, not 14. I believe he was outside the top 5 at Pocono, but every other race inside the top 5 for Sammy Smith. So, Casey, we'll bring you back in here now to discuss this one. With 2 ARCA East championships and the remarkable consistency that we've seen at the ARCA level, is it fair to suggest Sammy Smith could be just as good as Ty Gibbs has proven to be?
Yes. I think so. I mean, he's taken the similar path that Ty has had. I don't think he'll, depending on what his plans are for next year, when I don't want to really get into that. But there's a very strong possibility that you could see him in the Xfinity Series next year. But yeah, it's he's just as good as Ty. Obviously comes from a different background, coming from Iowa, has gotten a lot of mentorship from, the late Harold Annett. Of course, that was Michael Annett's father. So yeah, I mean, he's solid. There's a reason why he's racing for Toyota. He's a solid driver. I've seen him, we really kind of knew him in the late model ranks when he drove for KBM. Now, of course, in the ARCA East ranks and ARCA, has been a solid driver all year. And when he wins, he's happy. When he doesn't, he's not. It's just a solid driver, and just what a way. And how about this? KBM wins their first ARCA championship this year in 2022. And I don't know, who knows if KBM will be in the ARCA in the ARCA Menards series in their new era with Chevrolet.
Well, that's kind of a nice follow-up into the next question I have for you here, Casey. Of course, this week it was, or last week rather, about a week ago, it was confirmed finally Kyle Busch is moving to RCR on the Cup side of things, and we would expect it's just a formality as to when it's going to be announced rather than if, that his Truck Series and ARCA Series team, Kyle Busch Motorsports, will switch from Toyota to Chevrolet, as RCR is, of course, a Chevy team in the Cup and Xfinity Series. So with his move to RCR confirmed, Casey, where do you think that leaves Sammy Smith for next season? Will he stay with KBM and run Chevys, or do you think he'll find a Toyota team? Of course, he's run some Xfinity races for Joe Gibbs already this season.
I really don't want, well, as I kind of mentioned, I don't know where obviously he will land. But I would if I was a betting, I would think he would land in the Xfinity Series. I just think that's where he lands. I think okay, on the Kyle Busch situation, I got to be careful with what I say here. On the Kyle Busch situation, I really think that there's going to be a lot of moves that are going to happen within the platform of Xfinity trucks, ARCA. There's going to be drivers moving around. There's going to be teams moving around. There's going to be lots of things happening, including something pretty big that might happen in regards to what trucks and ARCA could look like next year. But if to answer your question, I would think Sammy Smith would be in the Xfinity Series next year. That I think that'd be a very safe bet to make.
Well, of course, that would follow the path that Ty Gibbs has gone on, skipping right over trucks and kind of doing it the old-fashioned way. It used to be kind of like they made a joke, the ABCs, ARCA, Busch, and Cup, but now Xfinity, of course, is sponsoring the series. But I think, Ty's proven you don't necessarily need to go to the Truck Series. If a Truck Series hasn't always been, a stage on the development ladder, if you will. Of course, there are a lot of veterans that.
And remember, Sam Mayer didn't even go to the Truck Series. Yes, he was in the Truck Series for a little bit with when he ran some races for GMS, but he didn't run a full truck season. Of course, he's now in Xfinity running for Junior Motorsports, so you can do it. It's we'll just have to see. But there's also a lot more opportunities for drivers in the Xfinity Series.
No doubt. All right. Well, speaking of trucks, let's go ahead and bring Brandon back in here, and we'll get ready for a discussion on the Truck Series. Now, Ty Majeski picked up his first NASCAR National Series win in the truck race Thursday night, parking his Thor Sport truck in victory lane after holding off Zane Smith and Parker Kligerman. Now, Majeski is the first driver to punch his ticket to the championship for at Phoenix later this season. Brandon, is it fair to call Ty Majeski a title favorite at this point?
I'm not too sure. This is just his first win here in the National Series, and but he's behind a great team there, Thor Sport. And I'm looking in the standings, he's awfully similar. He's got the same amount of top fives and top tens to John Hunter Nemechek. So just 1 point ahead of him if you're looking at points and everything. So if he's an equal to John Hunter Nemechek at this point, maybe some late season stride, then maybe he's got what it takes there to stay with it. But he's got some great competition there with Chandler Smith and, of course, Zane Smith with his 3 wins and 12 top 5s, 17 top 10s. He dominates the stat sheet there. And like I said last week, Stuart Friesen is probably my least likely pick to make it anywhere near the round of 4. But also, this goes back to my gripe of how stretched the Truck Series playoffs is. It makes it where it's hard to keep the happy-go-lucky guy interested in who's going to make it to the championship with how long you have to wait for each race to occur, as opposed to the Cup Series and Xfinity Series being a lot more frequent. But besides the point, Tom Majeski, he's got as good a shot as any of the rest of them, honestly. I mean, Talladega is huge for anybody. So we'll have to wait and see. Although he is locked into Phoenix, he's got a shot there. Phoenix is a wild card for trucks.
There we go.
Hey, hello. Sorry, Brandon. I thought you were done there, but
yeah, I thought so too.
We'll go over to Casey now.
I will gladly take the torch from you, Brandon. I would think he is. I don't know. I mean, remember, a ThorSport truck won the championship last year with Ben Rhodes. I don't know if many people thought that he was going to be a championship favorite this year, but then again, you never know when you can get a race. If you one win can get you powered into the championship and have just a solid year. And Ty's been super consistent all year long. All he just needed was a win. Is he a championship favorite? I think he is. I didn't have him advanced to my championship 4. None of the rest of the people I do the playoff brackets with had him in the championship 4. So I mean, he could go and upset things, and who knows? I mean, everybody thought that John Hunter Nemechek was going to win the championship last year. Certainly that didn't happen. So, I mean, we could see an upset in the making. I don't know. It's how this format works. Like I said last week, it's like, Cinderella wins a championship again. I mean, filling out just you never know where a driver can get hot and boom, he's the champion. That's you just got to be at the right place at the right time to win a championship.
Yeah.
By the way, we'll have Ty Majeski on my channel tomorrow.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Brandon, were you going to follow up with something there?
I was just thinking, like, last year, Ben Rhodes didn't feel like the champion, but yet he was. And in the same way in the Xfinity Series, Daniel Hemrick, he didn't feel like the champion, but therefore he was, though, because he was in the right place at the right time, got it done at Phoenix. I mean, it's just luck of the draw, what we talk about here every week.
Yeah, well, Brandon, I completely agree with you. It does feel weird that we're talking about somebody in the Championship 4 already in the Truck Series, where the Xfinity Series playoffs just started because we just ended the regular season. So
I do want to mention something about that. The format of the Truck Series playoff format was kind of the races in the last races of the season were kind of fixed by next year's schedule. It's a little bit more compressed together. I don't know if you kind of noticed that when the last few races of the season, but obviously it's the networks that set the schedule. I mean, just when it's airing. And of course, Fox has a lot of things in the second half of the year with the NFL, with college football on Saturdays. Of course, they just signed that big deal with the Big Ten starting next year. So, it's just at the behest of when these races can air. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to definitely be there. And also 2 Saturday day races. Of course, Talladega and Homestead will be during the day. And then, of course, Phoenix will be at 10 p.m. Eastern time. That's going to be a late night for me.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think it was fixed a little bit, but, it's going to be very interesting to see. 2025 is not that far away. We've got some new TV contracts that are going to be coming in. It'll be interesting to see if things largely stay the same, or if we get a couple of new players in the TV deals.
Yeah, for a lot of people that were wondering about when the blow-up schedule was going to be, or when we see the massive drastic changes, we kind of have seen them in the last few years. I mean, obviously the 21 schedule had a lot of them, but to see the changes, I think people are, the shorter schedules and all that stuff, that's obviously going to come with the new TV deal. Of course, I'll get into that later. I shouldn't divulge that.
Well, Casey, I think you'll get onto that probably on your channel, and Amber just subscribed to you, so you picked up a subscriber tonight, and we'll keep an eye out for that. I'm sure you'll be talking to all sorts of different people as the season goes on, and might get some leads on that. Now, Brandon, I want to pose this question to you. Of course, you brought up Ben Rhodes and winning the championship last year. Of course, he's teammates with Majeski at ThorSport now. Ben's looking to defend his 2021 championship. And he won at Bristol earlier this year. Of course, that was on the dirt. But since then, it's largely been a struggle for him. He only has one finish better than 8th. It was a second-place run at IRP not too long ago. He's also currently 8th in the standings of the 8 drivers still left in the truck playoffs. So given his current form, you mentioned it, Talladega is a track where anybody can win if you're in the right place at the right time. With how he's been running recently, should Talladega be circled as a must-win if he's going to advance to the championship 4?
Oh, absolutely. Ben Rhodes is on the very, very edge of this, and he's got to find a way to get to the front at the end and win at Talladega. I think that's his only shot here. He's, along with Stuart Friesen, I believe he's some of the weaker links here of this puzzle.
Well, I do have to say, it has felt kind of strange because obviously Rhodes is the defending champion, but it feels like he's been pretty quiet this year, and checking the results to prepare for the show tonight certainly confirm that. Now, he is still in the playoffs. He does still have a shot, and he could find his way in the right place at the right time. Of course, all it takes is one win, and then you're into the championship 4, and then anything can happen in that final race. But it certainly has not been the defense of his championship all throughout this season that I think he would have liked. So there's certainly some work to do if he's going to get to that level where we can call him a favorite when it comes time for Phoenix.
And you never know what can happen at Talladega. Talladega is literally the unpredictable of unpredictability.
Yeah, I mean, he could go to Talladega, win that thing, and then just defend his championship.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Of course, it's very hard to predict. I will say I'm very glad Talladega is not a cutoff race at the end of a round. I think I'm not a fan of that. I understand that you want to have a super speedway in the playoffs because you want a large variety of tracks and different types of circuits. I understand that, but Talladega to me is just too chaotic and too crazy to be a cutoff race, given how unpredictable it is and how much of a wild card obviously you can get caught up in a wreck that's not your fault and that can ruin your entire season. I think it's good that these teams will have an opportunity to rebound at Homestead before it comes time for the season finale at Phoenix.
You don't want Talladega picking your series champions.
Ooh, right. Speaking of Talladega, by the way, I forgot to mention this during the schedule thing. The Xfinity Series will only be going to Talladega once next year.
That's another good point. That's right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yep. So they'll be going in the spring with the ARCA Menards Series and the Cup Series. Of course, the Cup Series will go to Talladega twice, as always. In the fall, will be the Cup Series and the Truck Series, as it usually has been before COVID.
I don't think there are too many Xfinity owners that are going to be upset about that if the last few super speedway races have been anything to judge by, particularly the one at Daytona.
I love Talladega. It's a good track. I like it.
All right. Well, again, a nice little segue here. Let's move on to the Xfinity Series, and it was Noah Gragson doing it once again. His 3rd race win in a row, 6th on the season. Gragson came out on top in a battle with his junior motorsports teammate Justin Allgaier. Now, a late caution that stemmed from Allgaier's contact with J.J. Yaley saw Gragson stay out on old tires while Allgaier entered the pits. Allgaier's race was undone when he was penalized for speeding, despite the fact that he was well ahead of the rest of the field pitting behind him due to the number of lap cars between he and Gragson and the rest of the lead lap cars. Now, Allgaier did recover to finish 9th, as you see there on the screen, but the potential victory leading into the playoffs could come back to bite him as a missed opportunity. So, Brandon, just how devastating was Allgaier's speeding penalty, all things considered here?
All things considered, only time will tell. He may have really needed that win, but also he's even besides that, he's still 28 points above the cut line in the Xfinity Series. A veteran that is desperately wanting a championship. I think he may have something to worry about. It may come back to bite him, but for now, he's just going to have to fight it off and go into the next one.
Oh, hi. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it really doesn't, matter. Obviously, Justin Allgaier is a solid driver. Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone's going to do something, and a lot of drivers have made solid mistakes. Look, obviously, I think he'll learn from this. Obviously, no one's perfect. Everyone's going to have something that they do that's going to cost them a win of a race. So I think Justin's going to learn from this, and it'll get him ready for the playoffs, which start this weekend at Texas.
Yeah, I agree, Brandon. I think the only time is going to tell as to how costly that might be. But I also just think from a momentum standpoint, it would be very nice for Allgaier if he had a win going into the postseason and could maybe build on that and build on the momentum as the first few races in the playoffs go on. And if the momentum continues to snowball, that bodes very well for Phoenix. But, unfortunately now it's kind of the opposite. He had a potential win taken away from him for a speeding penalty that he probably didn't need to be pushing as hard as he was to be over the limit, of course, on the miles per hour there. So it's going to be interesting to see if that ends up being the difference between him making it to the championship 4 or not. And then, of course, if he makes it to the championship 4, only the race at Phoenix is going to matter there. Now, to turn the tables back to his teammate, Gregson, Casey, we'll go to you first for this one. Or were you surprised, rather, that Gregson was able to hold off Brandon Jones and the rest of the field, given that he had stayed out on really old tires? And what does that say about the tire that Goodyear brought to the track?
There was no tire fall off, so I'm not surprised. Yeah, I mean, if you can stay on there for that time, that was a great call by Luke Lambert. And, just the trends of that race, and everyone thinks, oh, he's only holding him off because Brandon Jones is going to be in his car next year. Oh, my goodness. They're just going for a race. I don't know. If you want to think that, go right ahead. But I just, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised about anything anymore. It's racing. It's racing. It's the Xfinity Series, and everyone's going to go for the win. But the 9 car's just been solid all year long. And Noah's won his 3rd race in a row, and probably as many people have him as the championship favorite. But obviously, anything can happen in this format, and usually does.
Yeah, I saw those shouts as well over social media that, Brandon Jones, he's just stopping because that's going to be his ride. Yeah. No, I really think he just Goodyear brought that good of a tire or that bad of a tire, depending on where you stand on that, to where they could just hold it out that long. And Gregson really just has that place down pat. He's also just one of the main dominant cars of the Xfinity Series this year, dominant drivers. And that really was just a showmanship of Gregson. A little concerned of him getting out of the car, though, with his health issues and things like that. Really hope that he's able to get some checkup. He said he probably won't be able to do it till season's end, but really would like him to do. I think we all would like him to find some treatment sooner to tackle some of these issues he's been having as of late.
Yeah, well, I know there's been a lot of jokes about him getting out of the car and puking every time he wins a race, but I think, when it becomes a regular thing like this,
it's serious.
Maybe that's something that we should, be thinking of him and see if that, hopefully he can figure out what's going on so that before it becomes a bigger issue than it already is. Now, keeping with the Xfinity Series, I have one final thing I want to talk about, in the spirit of the playoffs and everything. AJ Allmendinger clinched the regular season championship in a much less dramatic way than he did in 2021. While he only has 3 wins to Gregson's 6, his consistency has been remarkable. He only has 3 finishes outside the top 10 the entire year. Brendan, I know you and I were tracking that top 10 streak every week, it seemed, at the beginning of this season, and he has, for the large part, continued to stay in the top 10 all year. He wins the regular season championship, but then you look at the points reset, and he already finds himself in 4th behind Gregson, Gibbs, and Allgaier. So does it make sense that the regular season champion begins the playoffs 4th in the standings here?
No, it doesn't. And that should be obvious. I mean, it's really silly that we celebrate the regular season championship in any of the 3 series. Casey, I'm not sure what's so funny. Maybe just
we keep talking about it every year.
Yeah.
About regular season championships and and obviously I know how you two feel about this, so I'm gonna let you two discuss this.
Okay, well, to me it's the equivalent of like going to a 4-year-old's birthday party and having a little, like the little happy congratulations, like confetti and stuff. Your regular season championship, you're like, great. I'm still fighting for a championship, by the way. Like it's pointless. It really it's congratulations, you have it. And by the way, we're going to put you down in 4th here to start the actual championship. It doesn't make any sense. And also, everyone laughs at it. It's a meme. Nobody really is like, congratulations, seriously, to my driver. He won the regular season championship. It it's a core issue that will never be resolved because it's runoff ratings.
Yeah, well, I mean, you guys remember, like, you remember the image of Martin Truex Jr. winning the regular season championship. I'm going to see if I can pull that real quickly.
He's not happy.
Yeah, I mean, really, I mean, it's like the guy is. I mean, he knows that the main thing that he's fighting for is a championship at the end of the year, and you hype up this regular season championship. It's like, I mean, people always make the jokes about the 2007 Patriots when they defend the playoff system. Like, you have to win at the right time. And, I mean, again, I don't want to get too far down that discussion, but you hype up this regular season champion, he gets a trophy for everything, and then you reset everything, and he's not even the points leader. I mean, like, how do you explain this to the casual fans that you're marketing the excitement of the playoff system to? A guy wins the regular season championship, but as the playoffs reset it, he's not even the guy that's leading the point standings, and then you have this kind of reaction here from Martin Truex. I mean, it's I can't.
Burton's even better. He's even better.
I mean, I mean, it speaks for itself. Like, you can't even, like, you're not going to celebrate this. I mean, and obviously, of course, they went on to win the championship at the end of the year anyway, but their eyes are like, they don't care. They've just been handed this trophy. They're doing this photo shoot. They're supposed to be happy and celebrating. And I think there's a couple images from Kyle Busch. I think he won. I think there's an image of him at Indianapolis back when you remember when the Brickyard 400 was the regular season finale. Doesn't that seem like just ancient history? You remember that was a thing for a couple of years?
Yeah, it does.
I mean, I don't know.
I'm here so I don't get fined face. Like, if I didn't have to be here, I would not be here because I don't care.
Do you remember when we had a regular season points championship?
Oh, I do. I really do.
Bless
Matt Kenseth. It was the beginning of the end.
Well, listen, guys. I mean, we're going to have to get ready for that in IndyCar because the guy who only won one race won the title. The guy that won 5 races didn't. So IndyCar's got to be looking at this and think, oh, okay, NASCAR's really got something good here, folks. We had a guy win a title on consistency.
I don't think IndyCar's going to do that.
The championship for Laguna Seca. Welcome, everyone. Lee Diffie alongside.
Well, Alex Palou won the last race. What do you mean he's not the champion? I thought that's how it worked here. Oh man. Let's bring it all back here. It's been a fun discussion here this last hour, but on a serious note, let's keep the positivity going here. Brandon, what's your one shining moment from this motorsports weekend? And again, of course, since you're not on the weekend shows, if you want to throw something in there from the Cup race as well, and Chris Buescher had a great win. For everybody at RFK Racing, what's your one shining moment that you got?
I like the crowds at Bristol, and mainly my one shining moment is just RFK, the entire organization snapping that 5-year streak, and also the admin of the social media doing what he knows best. Elijah Burke, props to you. That was a fantastic few hours of social media content. He's just been rocking it there ever since he had to leave Chip Ganassi. Elijah Burke and also all of RFK, Christopher Buescher, my shining moments.
Oh, hi. So I'm going to go with Caden Honeycutt. I got a solid run for On Point Motorsports. Actually, just did an interview with him. Lots of guys having some solid races, and also in the Xfinity race. How about Stephen Parsons getting a top 10 for Alpha Prime Racing? That's got to be a solid run. How about Bailey Curry 11th? Just reading down the list here, and then Jeb Burton 15th, solid run for him, and then Jeffrey Earnhardt in 12th. So lots of solid runs, and then I also got to give it to Sammy Smith for winning the ARCA championship. Oh, one more thing I did forget to mention in the ARCA portion of the show, the points battle for the championship. Has been kind of altered a little bit. Nick Sanchez did not have the best night. So now Daniel Dye is 5 points outside of the lead in the ARCA championship heading into the final 2 races of the season, which of course ARCA is off this week. Next week, they're at Salem. Also, the ARCA West Series is at All-American Speedway in Roseville. So that should be fun there. And And Raja Crew, 28 points back. Yeah, forgot to mention that.
Yeah, certainly a great championship battle forming in the ARCA series. I'm going to stick with that theme. Like you, Casey, I want to give a call to Sammy Smith. It's been a fantastic couple of years for him in the ARCA Menards Series East. Great to see him get to defend his championship, have an absolutely dominant season. I know he's got a great team behind him as well, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that program. I think there are still a lot of pieces that need to fall into place. Obviously, the big announcement is out of the way now, but we'll see what happens with Kyle Busch Motorsports and not just their truck program, but this new ARCA program as well that they acquired from Joe Gibbs this offseason. We'll see what comes of that. Of course, the team's going to switch to Chevrolet. It's just a matter of time before that's announced. But I'm with Casey. Like you were saying earlier, Michelle, I think Xfinity might be the next logical step for Sammy Smith. And he's already run some races there and already had some good runs. So I think he could very well be on a similar path to what Ty Gibbs has already done so far in that car before him. And I think they're proof that, like I said, the Truck Series doesn't necessarily need to be one of the steps that these young drivers take. If they're talented enough, fast enough, put them in an Xfinity car, see what they can do, and sometimes they might just deliver. So I think Sammy Smith has a really good chance of doing that next year, assuming he stays in the Toyota family. Well, that's going to do it for another episode of Grid Live Encore. If you really liked what you saw tonight, be sure to follow us on all our social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. We're also doing these streams on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, LinkedIn, and of course, YouTube. I think I got them all. If you really liked what you saw, of course, you can always take a few moments after the show tonight to invest in Grid Network, help keep us on the air throughout 2022 and beyond. Of course, Casey was mentioning the Portland-Sonoma doubleheader being back next year. Your support is what allows me to go out and join Joe for that. It's what allows Joe to go out to Portland again in the fall to cover the IndyCar Series. We really, truly appreciate it and might allow us to go out and cover even more races in 2023. So we would love if you would support us in that venture. And as always, a thank you to Colin, Deshelle, Mark, and Robin, who continue to support us in our Patreon. If you'd rather make a one-time donation, of course, you can buy me a coffee. And as always, thank you to Edward, Amber, and Zachary for doing that. Finally, visit our sponsor, public.com, the stock market social media home, the referral code GRIDnet. You see it right there on the screen. It's also in the description box below. That will give you $5 to invest. It allows you to connect with your friends, make new friends, and use tools to learn how to invest in the stock market. Now on Wednesday, Kobe will bring you Grid Tonight, as always, with Adam Lemeries. A quick programming note, the Women in Motorsports show is moving to Fridays on a permanent basis. I know we've had some Friday shows in the past, but stay tuned for that with Joe Samaniego and Daniel Zeri, as always. And, of course, you can stay tuned for more Grid Live coverage next weekend as well. Casey, Brandon, any final thoughts before we sign off?
Yeah, there's some news from this morning from Ryan Vargas. He said it's been made aware to him that he'll not be driving the 6 car at Texas, Homestead, and Phoenix. Said the team has moved forward with a business decision to take on a funded driver. He said he understands these decisions may reflect bad on him from the outside looking in, but there are a lot of factors that go into these decisions. So some tough news there for Ryan Vargas, JD Motorsports. It's going to be curious to see who that funded driver might be.
And that funded driver will be Brendan Poole. Of course, that was announced that he was going to be 6. Also, some other notes from the Xfinity Series. Garrett Smithley will be in the 78 this weekend. Also, Parker Retzlaff. I know it was also reported that he parted ways with RSS Racing. He will be in the 02 for our Motorsports this weekend. Also, Tommy Joe Martins will be back behind the wheel for Alpha Prime Racing. And also, I did mention I interviewed Caden Honeycutt. He told me that for the as of right now, he will be in the last 3 Camping World Truck Series races for On Point Motorsports next year. I know that Chris Knight from CatchFence.com also kind of reported that team's future is kind of in limbo with if they don't sign a driver or a sponsor next year. Who knows what happens there? I know that Caden told me that he would like to be with On Point Motorsports as well. And also Venturini Motorsports confirmed to me today that there will be 3 drivers at Salem, Connor Jones in the 15, Jesse Love in the 20, and Tony Breidinger in the 25.
Well, I had a question ready to go. I skipped over it for time purposes, but I have to say, I hate to end it on a bit of a downer. I was a little disappointed that fans booed Ty Majeski simply because he didn't do a burnout. We talked about fan behavior on this show before. If specifically in the Truck Series, you had the beer can being thrown at John Hunter Nemechek for no apparent reason there. Obviously, this is not as egregious as that, but I think fans have to realize sometimes, teams want to save their motors. They're going after a championship here. They have to think big picture. I completely understand. In fact, Ty Majeski, I thought, did a great thing by honoring Alan Kulwicki with the Polish victory lap. So I don't understand what the boos were for, but I wish sometimes NASCAR fans would be a little more classy after a guy scores his first career win, especially a guy like Ty Majeski. It's been a long time coming for him. He's been running so well this year, and to have the moment, ruined by a few fans who wanted to see a burnout, I wasn't particularly a fan of that. But
it's driver choice, team choice. It's not required by NASCAR. I mean, they got to let it go.
So all the drivers in the 60 Xfinity car have won.
Yes. Yeah. So much for the cursed car from what was that, 2018?
Yeah.
Great. So
yeah. I miss Roush and Xfinity.
Yeah.
They'll be back.
Well, it is good to see that all those drivers have moved on to bigger and better things, and looks like they put that difficult year behind them. And great to see Ty Majeski get that win as well. I think if I can pull the comment up real quick, I think that was Adam's shining moment as well. So another great moment from this weekend. And for Joshua Burch, Casey Campbell, Brandon Crossland, I'm Ben Schneider. As always, thank you all so much for watching. Have a wonderful week. We will see you next time right here on Grid Network.
Don't be an anonymous investor. Join the stock market social media platform, public.com. Invest any amount of money and share with friends and new friends. Discover new opportunities, such as new companies and potential business partners, and useful tools for beginners, and share your experience with friends on public.com. Link in the video description gets you $5 for being a Grid Network viewer. Use the referral code GRIDnet for your free $5 to invest. Start investing and networking on public.com.